So you said, well, you know what? I'm going to set up in the dining room, and I'm going to work off the table for a couple of days, and I'm going to see how I feel with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, gosh, I hope it works out for her because I really, really like this. I really like this chandelier. So intuitively, it felt right for me, but intuitively, it didn't feel right for you. What if intuition isn't a gift, but a superpower waiting to be unleashed? Join Katherine Troyer and myself for this special edition of the Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast. Enjoy these no limits, no boundaries, raw, unfiltered conversations. Hey, Katherine, how are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you, Sandra?
I am doing well. Hey, I'm really excited to integrate one of your true loves in life here into our intuitive conversation.
Okay.
So, I want to talk about using your intuition, being intuitive and decision making. So that looks really different with different aspects of our life, right? The personal, at work, all of those different parts. But I want to talk about a personal experience. You came and spent a couple of weeks with me on the farm, and you are a very knowledgeable and passionate Feng Shui person. And you took a look around and you were sort of looking at how things were set up, and you had made some recommendations for me with a house, which was perfect because it is not my specialty area. I can feel the energy and how things feel with me. And I will tell you the things that you recommended that I did really did shift the energy that I just would never have thought about. So one of the first things is in my dining room, I have this chandelier that has like 50 or so quartz crystals hanging down from them that are they're each cut, which I guess also shifts the energy in them. And after about a week, you started questioning me about about this uh, about this dining room light, and you were like, "I just have to tell you, like that's too much. It's too much energy." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean it's too much energy?" So you were explaining a little bit about the shui, and I said, "Well, it feels okay to me." And I had someone else who stayed there, and they actually worked at the table underneath the chandelier, and
Mhm.
there didn't seem to be a problem. So I was like, intuitively, like I love this chandelier. Like it's literally the fourth time I've purchased it and put it into different living situations. That's how attached I am to it. So you said, well, you know what? I'm going to set up in the dining room, and I'm going to work off the table for a couple of days, and I'm going to see how I feel with it. And I
Mhm.
was like, gosh, I hope it works out for her because I really, really like this. I really like this chandelier. So intuitively, it felt right for me, but intuitively, it didn't feel right for you at the moment.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, I think our energy is just different and we all like different things and different things feel good to us. Well, and maybe that sounds silly, right? Almost maybe that's seems like too simplistic of an answer, but I think especially if I'm coming from a feng shui practice perspective, and really a lot of different things that we do, even when we've been taught Reiki and all of these different things, right? We're taught this is the way that you do something, and this is what that means, and this is a lot of energy. But for you, like you thrive off of that. And I think Lindsay also loves working under the crystal. I don't think I liked it. It was too much. Like it had me too, like, ugh, like it's too much for me, right? But for
Mm-hmm.
you guys, you love it. You thrive in it and it feels really great to you. And so that's where I think it's like, as we are learning different things on this journey in life, I think it's really important to hear something, to take what resonates with you and truly like try it on. Well, does that, okay, I heard Kate say that this chandelier might be a lot of energy. but it doesn't, I'm going to sit with it and, oh, I work really well here. And actually, this energy feels really good to me. Because just like, taking drugs or anything like that, we all have a different chemical makeup and things
Right.
affect us differently. It's the same thing with the energy that's all around us, right? Our energetic makeup is unique to each one of us. And so, your space is uniquely energetically attached to you. So it's like, I think, again, but even with learning meditation, right? Oh, well, if you're going to do Dr. Joe meditations, this is how you do Dr. Joe meditations. And that's all fine and good. Sandra, you and I have both been there with the Dr. Joe meditations, right? But I know for a long time, I felt like that's how I always had to meditate. And if I wasn't in that meditating like that for over an hour and doing breath work before, it was like, well, am I even meditating? Now I'm just sitting here like a lump because I clearly couldn't be meditating unless I'm doing it this super intense way that I was taught.
Right.
So yeah, I guess I don't know if that really answers your question that you asked me.
Well, I think it does. And you said it maybe that you oversimplified it. And I think that you answered the question. The answer is that simple. The
Yeah.
energy is different for different folks. So
Mm-hmm.
I do want to share, we were also working because this was a little bit different. And I think even because you shifted a little bit intuitively with this as we talked about it a little more, is on the corner of the houses needed to be anchored. And, we talked about different crystals and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it all made sense and it resonated with me. And I got these crystals and I buried them. So I have about, well, since you've last been here, I probably am up to about 35 wind chimes now. When the hurricane came through, I did lose a few of them.
They're like your babies.
With the winter cold, I did have an issue with one that I found back out in the field. So I was setting up these wind chimes on each of the corners on some hooks, and you were like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm putting up wind chimes." Like,
17 wind chimes. What are you talking about?
I love it. And you're like, ooh, like I don't know that you wanna do that. Like that's a lot of air energy. And I'm a little ADHD. I can't even say it, ADHD with my energy and how I do things. Like I can get all over the place, but it all flows and makes sense for
Mm-hmm.
me. So you talked about it and sort of how that creates it. And I mean, physically, you were showing me like how the wind and it came, and I thought, oh, okay, actually, that made sense. Although I love my wind chimes, I was willing to give up on like my dining room chandelier. But
But
during
you
the
didn't give it up though, did you?
no, no, I didn't. So one of the things that had come up while you were here, you brought your drum, and then I had all my tuning forks, and we sort of traded each other's energy work and frequencies, and we're having fun. And we were out in the back, and I told you about the native energy that's here, and that I had seen some natives initially when I had bought bought the property, and some pictures that came through. And when we were out there in the back field, that for some reason I called Teepee Village because I wanted to put a teepee up there, we saw two crow. And you and I
Mm-hmm.
saw some native folks who were on the property and had our own little interactions with their energy. And as we talked, I don't think that you realized I have had such an incredible fascination with the Native Americans and working with them. I know that you knew I worked out on the reservations at one point, but I have a lot of artifacts that I'm finally starting to unpack and stuff. And I don't know, it was maybe days, weeks, months later. It's hard to know with time these days. And you said that you had been doing some reading and research with the native population. And there, because one of the natives actually gave me some instructions to put, a rock on that one corner of the house and do some different things. But then you came back and
Mm.
said, you know what, I want to rethink that conversation with the wind chimes. Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember what all we talked about with this because I remember during that time I was rereading some Denise Lynn stuff, and I absolutely love Denise Lynn as a teacher and a practitioner because she's taken Feng Shui principles and her Native American heritage and created her own, unique way of practicing, feng shui or whatever. I think she kind of calls her thing sacred space, what she does. And I'm trying to remember exactly what I know that was what prompted me to start thinking differently about this. And I'm trying to remember what exact point it was.
Well, they were talking, I think, about the different elements wind, fire, water.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it. And you said actually, with a lot of the native practices, that they did put up different symbols for the
Yeah.
wind to come in. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, like a little kid. Oh, does that mean
Yeah.
I
And
can
it
put my wind chimes up?
Yes, and it ended up making so much sense for your space and your property and what you are cultivating there, right? Where for me, my initial thought was, okay, you know, wind chimes are seen as something that attract energy. And I'm just like, wow, I don't know if we want, energy attracted to like all of these points in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had just never, I wasn't trained that way, and it never really made sense to me. And then when we started to dig into things deeper, right, and then also looking at it from this Native American perspective, it just kind of it felt so right for your space.
Right.
And that's what I think is so cool and about just energy in general is there really aren't like these hard, fast rules. It's kind of always unfolding.
So in our last show, we talked about one of the myths being, um, we talked about one of the myths being intuition and logic. Can they coexist? And it really sent
Mm.
us down a bit of a rabbit hole. And I think it's probably a rabbit hole we went down after the show. But as we're talking about this, is this an example of intuition and logic coexisting? And it's
I think
different
it
because
could be.
I did take the wind chimes down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you left, and then I put them back up. Well, because I was,
I
I
know.
didn't,
I remember
I
when I
didn't
came
need, I
again and
didn't.
you were like, look at all my wind chimes.
Well, I thought, I don't want to create something that's gonna be an uncomfortable chaos because I can do that. Like, sometimes I think things are really a grand idea, especially when I'm using my logic. And then, they turn out not to be so grand. And, I've been around for a while, so I've learned to, you know, respect other people's insights and knowledge and incorporate them.
Mm-hmm.
But intuitively, that felt really right. But intuitively, like, I'll just say, I didn't know any better. Like, I didn't know any of these things. And as you were talking about them, they seem to make so much sense.
But you
And,
went back to your intuition and said, you know what? Kate might know what she's talking about, but I
but
know
you,
what I want to be feeling at my house.
but you gave me permission to do it too. But
Ooh, I
so,
think
which
that's one
really,
of
but
the main things that I do with people. I
it,
swear.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
it
I
makes a big
gave myself
difference.
permission to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Sometimes
it
you just
felt,
need that little nudge of, well, what does feel good to you?
yeah. And it feels great. And it's interesting because it's interesting people comment on it because I do some Zoom calls for some consulting work and stuff I do. And a lot of times the wind chimes, I didn't realize that they come through, that they're like that loud.
Oh,
And
I
they'll
love
be
it.
like, "Oh, I really love your wind chimes in the background." So they do, well, their vibration, and I think that they're a higher vibration. So with the feng shui, what I'll say is, honestly, for me, it's interesting because I think, we talked before in that other episode, the old rules don't
Mm.
apply anymore. Like everything's changing with this shift and this
Yeah.
energy and this evolution that we're going through. And I mean, we've really embraced this. Like we are all in, and we're all in enough to know that that this journey and path it's a continuing path, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even folks in astrology feel like astrology, which is extremely cookbook in my world, like I think that it's very cookbook. They
Mm-hmm.
feel that it will change, that it is changing, and it's going to look different. And they don't know what different looks. So it's so exciting to be living in this time where everything's evolving and shifting. And when I first met you and had my first conversations with you with Feng Shui like 4 years ago,
So
and
wild.
talking to you throughout that period of time, you've shifted on what Feng Shui is.
Yeah, I think that's where I think I feng shui is like part of my base principle or formula or whatever you want to call it, but I really feel like what I'm doing and what I've been doing my entire life is something related to home energetics. Like I really do think that. And instead of thinking that like, oh, I'm just this feng shui practitioner, like I've combined, my deep study of feng shui with my interior design background and experience, and also my personal life experience with my environment since I was a really, really young girl. And working with so many people and color consultations and just all of these things to me I've taken and even just the way I think about life and things in general. And that's really what my practice is. And so I've been feeling lately like boiling it down to just feng shui isn't doing it justice, and it also creates these barriers. Well,
It
I'm
puts you in
thinking
a
about this
box.
from a feng shui perspective. Well, but even just the example that you just used, right? With well, I don't know about these wind chimes because, and I mean, that's one of the things I love about this practice is with when working with people, I'm always learning something new because everybody's energy is different. So there's always going to be some new type of thing that works for someone that might not work for someone else. But I truly think it also puts my mind in a box as well, where I'm like, well, I want to go this way. And I know when I first started practicing, I actually had to step back and stop myself because I was starting to go, whenever I would do anything in my home, it was so feng shui and the bagua map and da 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 that like I started to not know how to put a room together because I was so worried about all these rules. And I was like, no, no, no. So now I do the opposite. When I'm putting together a space, whether it's for myself, whether it's for a client or, whoever, I start first intuitively. Okay, what do I want to put here? Ooh, what feels good here? Ooh, let's play around with this. And then once I feel like I've got things kind of placed, this could, especially in my own home, this could be several weeks. So, this is a process. It's always evolving. But I feel like intuitively I get stuff set up first. Then I come in and say, ooh, how can I tweak the shui? I just want to tweak it. With my knowledge, how do I tweak this? Or, ooh, I noticed I put this here. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I put this I'm looking right now at this picture I have, this vintage print of it's a knight and a woman. I don't know, like, but they're definitely she's like royalty or something and they're holding hands. Um and just thinking about like, oh, I have that, maybe I have that in my love and relationship area. And you know what I mean? There's just so then I think there's tweaks and there's things that you can do. I also think what's really cool is with some feng shui knowledge, what you can learn about yourself by intuitively putting together a room and then saying, oh, let's take a look at what's in my love and relationship area. Let's take a look at what I naturally put in my abundance area, because that's going to be a representation of your current state and feelings. And
Interesting.
then you could go, okay, so intuitively, this is where I put these things. But now that I have this knowledge about the abundance area or this area or whatever, I actually know that, oh, I have this broken pot, that I have a plant in my abundance area. Why can't I let that planter go? Why don't I get a new planter? That doesn't feel very.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really fun to do personally, as like a fun little personal experiment, is to see what you've naturally intuitively put places, and then say, ooh, how can I improve this based on some of this knowledge that I have now?
Interesting. I like that. So you're recreating all of that these days.
Yeah, I think, well, I wouldn't really say that I'm recreating it. I think I already have it created. I've just had this weight of something that's no longer in alignment taking up the space of the other things coming into full manifestation. I don't have the space. I'm trying to hold on to something that died a long time ago, that no longer aligns with what I'm doing. But I'm holding on to it because it's the most successful business I ever had, even though it's not the business I want. But I can hold it up and say, look, be proud of me. This was really successful. Why does that matter? That was several years ago. And it's not where I'm going. It's not at all what I want to do.
So you're being true to yourself.
Hmm. And I think it's time that I stop trying to hide behind the name of something else. What I do is about me. It's my thing.
That's very really important.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, uh, I'll be excited to actually maybe share some of this journey in the process with
Yeah, I love
intuitive
it. It's
living. I mean,
I
I,
think
I
it's
think that I
perfect
always
for
get
it.
to be part of the process and shared in the background, but I think it'll be
Yes.
interesting to see how that all gets incorporated because at the end of the day, you're not there's lots of different versions of Catherine's out there
Hmm.
in this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've got some good stuff cooking.
Good. I love it. I love it. Well, as we finish up this one, for more information on Wild Souls Gathering and Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast and intuitive living, you can go to our website, wildsoulsgathering.com.
Yes, and for more information about home energetics, feng shui, and all of those fun things, you can go to homesliceliving.com or find me on social, Katherine_Troyer.
Ah, I love it. I want to thank everyone out there who took time out of their day to join Katherine and I. As always, we appreciate you. And remember,
To
love,
love loud, live loud.
live loud. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.